All right, let's dive into one of the most intense and frankly unsettling stories in the entire book of Acts. It's this incredible story about the early church in Jerusalem, a story that starts with amazing generosity and then just collides with a shocking lie. You know, the whole narrative really sets up this powerful paradox. On one hand, you have this beautiful, almost utopian picture of community life. And on the other, you have this absolutely terrifying judgment. So it makes you wonder, right? What happens when a community that's striving for perfection gets hit with its very first foundational lie?
So before we can even get to the shock of the lie, you have to understand the beauty of the community they had built. I mean, the scene in early Jerusalem, it's just this picture of incredible unity and spiritual power. This was a group of believers that was absolutely thriving.
And what's just mind-blowing is how deep this unity went. Now, this wasn't some kind of top-down rule or an early form of communism or anything like that. The source material is really clear. This sharing was totally voluntary. It just flowed naturally from hearts that had been completely changed.
And you know, this wasn't just some abstract feel-good idea. It had real-world results that were pretty incredible. Because of this radical, voluntary sharing, there was basically no poverty in their group. Think about that. People would actually sell land or houses, bring all the money to the apostles, and then it would be given out to anyone who needed it. It was this amazing, self-sustaining system, just fueled by grace.
Now, with any big movement, you always have someone who just perfectly embodies the whole thing. And for this community, that person was a man named Joseph, a Levite from the island of Cyprus. But the apostles gave him a nickname that, well, it just fit him perfectly.
They called him Barnabas. It means son of encouragement. And boy, did he live up to that name. He goes and sells a field he owns, and this is the key part, he brings the entire amount to the apostles to be shared. It was this pure, selfless act of generosity that really set the gold standard for everyone else. But you know how these things go. Just when everything looks perfect, a shadow starts to creep in. A deception, not from the outside, but from right inside their own ranks. And this is where the story just flips. It's like a tale of two givers. On the surface, what this other couple, Ananias and Sapphira, did looks a lot like what Barnabas did. They also sell a piece of property. But the huge difference was the motive. See, they kept some of the money for themselves, which, by the way, was totally their right, but they pretended they were giving the whole amount. They wanted the praise, the reputation for being generous without actually paying the price.
Okay, so this is the moment where everything changes. The Apostle Peter, he doesn't just see some sketchy accounting. He's got this spiritual insight, and he sees something way, way deeper. He confronts Ananias, and the words he uses get to the real heart of the crime. Peter just cuts right to the chase. Notice what he says. He doesn't say, hey, you lied about the price tag. He says, you have lied to the Holy Spirit. He pinpoints the sin not as greed or financial misdeed, but as a direct lie aimed at God's very presence within their community.
And let's be super clear here, because this is the absolute core of the story. The issue was never the money. Ananias was totally free to do whatever he wanted with it. He could have kept it all. The sin was the hypocrisy. It was wanting the applause, pretending to be holy, all while hiding this deception in his heart. Then Peter just drops the hammer and makes it explicit. By lying to the Holy Spirit, who was present and active in the church, Ananias wasn't just pulling a fast one on his friends. He was lying directly to God. I mean, the stakes just went from 0 to 100, right?
And when we say the stakes are high, we mean it. The consequence for this first foundational lie wasn't a timeout or a simple talking to. It was immediate, it was public, and frankly, it was devastating.
So here's how it goes down, and it's just chilling to read. Ananias hears what Peter says, and boom, he falls down dead, right there. He's carried out and buried. Then, 3 hours later, his wife Sapphira walks in, having no idea what just happened. Peter gives her a chance to come clean. She doesn't. She repeats the exact same lie, and she meets the exact same fate.
So, 2 lies, 2 judgments, 2 sudden deaths. What's the result of all this? The text says great fear seized the whole church. And this wasn't just people being scared or panicked. It was A holy awe. It was this sudden, shocking wake-up call about the holiness of God and the seriousness of having His presence right there among them. Which, of course, brings us to the big question that everyone asks about this story. Why? Why on earth was the judgment for this lie so incredibly severe? So final?
Well, it seems this was a critical, foundational moment for the church. First off, it was about preserving purity. Hypocrisy is like a poison, and it could have corrupted this new community from the inside out. Second, it was about establishing holiness, making it crystal clear that God's presence is not something to be taken lightly. And finally, it was about protecting the mission. Their witness to the world had to be built on a rock-solid foundation of integrity. So when you boil it all down, it comes back to one thing: integrity. The whole point of their mission hinged on their authenticity. I mean, if the people sharing the message were frauds, the message itself would be worthless. This dramatic, shocking event made sure that the church's internal reality matched its external witness. Authenticity wasn't just a nice-to-have, it was everything.
And that really brings it home for us, doesn't it? Ananias and Sapphira, they thought nobody was watching their hearts, but they were wrong. It kind of holds up a mirror and forces us to think about our own integrity. You know, the story we're living when we think no one else is looking, what does that story say about us?